Really struggle with it? I mean, or you want to work through a couple of them, just like we do it real fast. We got one that they really love. Nobody? Oh, you got, yes. What did you get?
I'm between ignite joy and celebrate life.
Igniting joy and celebrating life. You're sort of stuck between those two? And how am I going to stick you?
I don't know.
Well, tell me what they mean to you.
Well, igniting joy, I'm very passionate and exciting and have so much energy, kind of like your friend. So I want other people to have the same amount of joy, but I also have such a deep passion for life, so I want to help people celebrate life.
Okay, what I would encourage you to do is when you look at a purpose statement, remember the conversation that Kathy and I had about the gift it's to receive. First of all, which of those would you most want to receive?
Celebrating life.
Celebrating. Okay, so what if it was celebrating? What if it was celebrating joy? If you combine the two,
I like that.
you like that? Is that better?
Yes.
So, sort of like the ophthalmologist, better or worse? Okay. So you can live with celebrating joy. Just try that. I mean, remember, this is a quick way to do a purpose statement. This is not, we're taking a lot of, any of you that have ever written purpose, vision, mission, or value statements know that it takes a long time. But this will get you a good, solid placeholder for now that you can use and begin to put that way. Others, yes, no?
I exist to serve by unearthing treasure and lighting the way.
Oh, she doubled up on me. Which is it? Unearthing treasure or lighting the way? It's one. And there's a reason why I do. I don't want you to have an escape clause. But it's very interesting. Years ago, I had a guy who was a patent attorney who went through one of these programs. And when we wrote the purpose statement and took it down to 2 words for him, he suddenly went, "Oh my gosh, I get it." When I write patent law, we try to write it in as few words as possible because the fewer words there are, the more defensible it is. So 2 words is extraordinarily strong and defensible. Otherwise, you have a tendency to waffle between the two. So that's why I want to get you to 2 words. And lighting the way is considered one concept. It's just a way of expressing it. So which is it? Lighting the way or unearthing treasure?
I choose treasure.
Okay, so unearthing treasure is the one that you really go with. Then go with that one. Okay, now that doesn't mean that lighting the way might be a way that you would say, I can imagine that might be part of a vision for you where you're saying, I'm helping people to envision, maybe they're in darkness and there's this treasure buried in a cave. I'm sort of creating language around it for you. If it rings true, great. If it doesn't, then throw it away. But you can almost imagine that they're in this dark place and that you're bringing this light in so they can find their treasure. And you're lighting the way to their treasure. And for you, maybe somebody's lit the way for you to find your treasure as well. So again, your story is probably one of unearthing treasure in your own life. And then in turn, that's what you want to give. Okay? And in fact, when you do a purpose statement, you're going to find that it's going to enter into your speaking. It'll enter into your topics. It'll enter in, regardless, you can be a CPA speaking on accounting functions. But if you're about unearthing treasure, you can see, even as a CPA, you're saying, well, there's treasures in the financial statements that are there that you just have to find sometimes. A good accountant may find you a lot of money that maybe the IRS isn't entitled to, for instance. I mean, there's just lots of interesting ways that it can all work out. And regardless of you could be a garbage man and you could be unearthing treasure. So it doesn't matter what your profession is, it's what you bring into it. Okay, how you bring yourself into it. Yes, Eric.
Instead of doing the bracket, can we just pick one?
You can just pick one if you prefer. I'd like you to go through the process, but you can just pick one. Okay. If there's one that just jumps off the page at you, far be it from me to argue.
There's a couple. I haven't got like the final 4 now.
Okay, he's down to Yes, ma'am. You're back.
I exist to serve by inspiring hope and embracing grace.
Okay, which of those 2? I mean, everybody's... Yeah, keep choosing.
Inspiring hope.
Inspiring hope. And what does it mean to you?
I love to encourage people who feel discouraged. And I always let them know that you're going to make it, no matter what it is.
And tell me your story.
Well, you don't know my story.
But it's a story of hopelessness.
It's a story. You make it. You do make it.
It's a story of hopelessness to hope, isn't it?
Right.
You see, that's what the double-edged sword of purpose statements is. The very thing that you struggle with is the thing you've been most equipped in many ways that you want to give. You feel called to give. You know the pain that other people have been in. So purpose statements often have sort of this unique element about it. In fact, I'm going to address that shortly here, that you want to look at the double edge on it. So that's great. I mean, but you've got some statements, and I'm happy over lunch, to talk with you some more if you want. Give me some help on that. So lesson 3 is be on purpose, align and integrate. And your purpose statement is the beginning. That's where it starts. It starts in your heart. Confusion number 3, passion. This goes right back to, tell me your name.
My name is Denise Ford.
Denise. Okay, so Denise, we talk about passion. One of the things that's really interesting about the word passion is most people don't understand the definition of the word passion. We use it very sloppily. And what I want to do is, here's literally the definition, and I realize you probably can't read that, but I wanted at least you to see. This is off of Merriam-Webster's website for the definition. It says, often capitalized, the suffering of Christ between the night of the Last Supper and his death. Okay, that's the passion of Christ. Mel Gibson got all the grief for the movie, but the fact, and he got a lot of money too, by the way. But the suffering of the Christ. So for the suffering, passion is suffering, and then down here you see obsolete. It says suffering. It's obsolete because we've lost the concept of what passion really is. Passion means suffering. And most of us think of it way down here as, let's see, where is it? No, that's passion. An ardent affection, love, a strong desire, a liking. It's way down there. We have sort of co-opted this wonderful word that means both passion, suffering, and joy. And so whenever you talk about, you want to be in your passion, most of us are saying, you want to be about what you're most excited about. And that's true, but usually what you're going to be most excited about is somewhere where you have suffered and you have overcome. And the word passion, again, not getting churchy on you here, but the suffering of Christ between the night of the Last Supper and his death, that's the most grueling 24 hours probably recorded in history almost, if you will. And yet what happens is on the other side of that you have the resurrection. And so there's this suffering and then there's this joy. And so the word is just a fascinating word that's about it. And then years ago, some of you may remember Rick Panett, who used to be a member here, I don't know if he still is, but he used to have a thing where he says passion means pass, I, on. And so at some level, what you're doing is you're saying you're taking the suffering of who you are and you are passing I on. You're taking who you are and you're sharing it with others. But you've got to own that. It's going back to what Kathy had said about receiving it. And when you walk into the suffering, and then you're able to walk out of the suffering, then you're really equipped to lead people. So again, I'm not necessarily endorsing suffering for suffering's sake, but it's an important thing to look at. Now I have this on-purpose proverb I do, and it says, boldness occurs when passion rises and vanity falls. And basically what's going on with this is your boldness, what you're really wanting to be, boldness is not stupidity or craziness or risk-taking just for the sake of taking risk. Boldness is a confidence, it's out there. So what happens is when your passion rises, when you're suffering and your joy rise, in other words, you're willing to pay the price, and your vanity falls. In other words, you're willing to look like a fool. Now you're prepared to be a speaker. Okay? And most of you have a story of passion. You've suffered, and now you're willing to look like a fool. You're willing to go out of your comfort zone, and now you want to tell your story. So this is the kind of boldness that you want to do, and that's why at some level, if you don't feel like you're bold or confident in where you are as a speaker right now, or you're developing that, that's where you want to go to, again, the identity of who you are and how it really makes a difference, and why you're the essence of who you are, the power of who you are, the power of your experience is so profound, and why you want to bring that out, regardless of whether you have a technical topic or what they would call, soft skills. Okay, so passion. Let me ask you, what message is so important that you'll pay the price to rise into being a professional speaker? Write it down. What message is so important to you that you will rise into becoming a professional speaker? I mean, this is right where I am right now. I'm so frustrated because I feel like there's a spiritual cancer on our world, and I've got the cure. And I want to eradicate meaninglessness. Okay? So it's like I've held off long enough, and frankly, I had to mature into the message. And then, how are your purpose and your passion connected and integrated? Where is your story in the midst of this? Your purpose is going to inform it. Your story is going to bring it to life. Anybody want to share what their message is that's so important on them without, I don't need a... Yes, ma'am.
I would like to
Please
rid,
stand up.
my name's Colleen Sweeney. I'd like to rid healthcare of mean people.
Ah, what a great... Yeah, she'd like to rid healthcare of mean people. Boy. In fact...
On the caregiver end.
Okay, now I understand. In fact, there's a great... what was your first name? It's Connie?
Colleen.
Colleen. There was a great... I'll have to see it. I think it's on LinkedIn. There was a discussion of a speaker on the National Speakers Association side of a speaker who was going to go speak to healthcare professionals about their offices and what's wrong with them. And it's just rich with stuff. I ended up just wrote this big long thing about everything that drives you crazy about a doctor's office. And you need to find that because it's rich with nuggets of stuff.
Yeah. Well, mine resulted as a study of what patients fear, and so that's how I did a 3.5-year study about what patients fear. And thanks to our new government survey, we will be ridding healthcare of mean people, but shame on us if that's what it's taken.
Cool. Good. How about others? Yeah. Give her a round of applause. How about others out there? Who else has a message they want to share with their messages? It's so important. Yes, ma'am. Tell us your name.
Sarah Bingham. It just doesn't have to be that way. It does not have to be that you just slowly decline through your life, and actually, even as a young person, are already in a decline as far as your health. It just doesn't have to be that way. If you knew what I knew, you could live a much more vital life that would enable you to get what it is you want with a whole lot more joy.
So the message is you can live a longer...
You can live every day with a lot more... the phrase that keeps coming is it doesn't have to be that way. And what I'm seeing, and maybe you can help me get it more concise, is that people are limping along with their bodies. They're walking along and dragging their body with them.
Right.
It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way.
Okay.
And that's from from little kids all the way up to...
Well, that's some marketing work that you need to do to clarify some of the language and the branding on that, but then you'll find the language.
Okay.
But that's great. You see you got a passion for it. Yeah, go around and applause. Thank you. How about one other person? Yes, sir.
I want to eliminate the starving speaker.
Starting with yourself?
I already did that.
Okay. You want to eliminate the starving speaker?
Yes. It was a passion. I did it. I starved. Then I figured it out. Now I want to help everybody else who's starving, trying to be a speaker.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Give them a round of applause as well. Okay, that's great. So now what I want to do is, this is a tool. You'll see it on your table. I know you can't read this, but it was just an example I wanted to give you to see that this is actually something that I filled out in order to prepare for this. Now, this tool is one that it looks very complicated, but let me explain it to you, because I wanted to give you some tools. I don't need you to necessarily fill it out, but you might, as I'm walking through it, if there's some things you wanted to do. What I basically do is, you'll see there's a title, and you'll see up here it says integrating your purpose, passion, and promotion for profit making. Okay, so this is a speech development tool that I use. Then what you're doing is you have an opening. So in this case, I use sort of the Aspen Institute story as an opener. I don't know that I actually put it up here, but yeah, I did, kind of in a way. Yeah, Relocation to Aspen Institute. I tend to create these, and then as I'm moving along, it gets me going. You know how you're putting together a speech and you get kind of stuck at, like, I get so many things I want to say, I'm not sure. I find that this tool helps me really get it started, nailed down tight. Then I put it together, then I don't go back and fix it afterwards. But then what you do is you look at it and say, what are the 3 big points you want them to get? This is kind of 4th grade English. Opening paragraph, point 1, point 2, point 3, close. Except there's a call to action in the middle of it. And you'll see that there's an explanation down the side. So this is a tool that I've used. In fact, I'd never formalized it until I had this presentation. I've just always scribbled it out on a piece of paper. But then I thought, well, I could describe it, but I really wanted to give you a tool that you could then take. So I actually formalized it, and it was kind of fun whenever I put it together. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Now I guess I've got a form, and there's extra forms. I actually overprinted forms, so if you need some more or you want to photocopy it, feel free to do that. The other thing I would ask you not to photocopy is the borrow your purpose statement, because if people do that out of context, it's meaningless to them. It cheapens the whole process for them. They need to understand what purpose is. But anyway, that's a tool that I wanted to leave with you, that if it's useful, all you're doing is you're saying, okay, opening statement, point 1, point 2, point 3. Whoops, it says point 2 twice, sorry about that. Then call to action and then closing. And what you do is underneath point 1 and point 2, where the boxes are, you'll put your big things, you see them here in bold. And then underneath it, you might put a couple bullet points that you want to cover underneath it, or not. I mean, you may do 2, 3, 4, but it gives you a way to sort of organize it, move it through. And then I think it's always important to have a call to action. And so down here, my call to action to you, you'll see it later on, is subscribe to the On Purpose Minutes. It's these 1 to 2 minute videos that I do every Tuesday and Thursday. One's on personal leadership, one's on business leadership, and they're free. And so that's my call to action. It's a way for me to infuse you with some on purpose thinking on a regular basis for free. And then there's a close. And so I hope that tool will be useful to you as you're developing your speech. And again, this is some of the technology that's there, the technique, but really it's not the technique that matters, it's what's in your heart that's coming through, and this technique is allowing you to maybe deliver it in a more structured, orderly format so that other people can get it.